And welcome to My Xbox and Me episode. I don't have a bloody clue because I've got no show notes because I'm in America, baby. I think it's
49.
It's 49.
49.
Fudge.
Oh no.
Fudge.
Oh no.
No. That's not good. That means next week we're meant to have a guest of some sort.
Well, maybe next week.
Right now?
Maybe next week everybody can enjoy a 349.5 or something.
All I'm saying is, maybe next week I could be the special guest because I'm back home. I just said. With me this week is the one and only Too Fresh Crash. Crash, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing good.
And the one and only Mr. Matt Peterson. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Maybe we should,
weird.
off the bat, obviously, Fixer is in Texas. Sorry for the lackluster audio on his end, but I think it's worth it. The Potato Squad are here. They're in for it.
I'm not gonna lie, I bought new AirPods, and it weren't strictly for this. I got AirPod Maxes, and the microphone on it is still crap. Like, how can you get the audio to be so good? Noise cancelling, all this other stuff, but you still can't get a microphone that sounds like good. What the hell?
That's where you cheap out.
True.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't know of a single wireless pair of headphones or earphones that have good mics. I don't know a single one. They don't exist.
No, me
as
either.
far as I'm concerned.
Me either. If you didn't know this, My Xbox and Me is our weekly Xbox podcast here on youtube.com/MyXboxandMe and all podcast services. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, share, and all that good stuff. Yeah, like Matt said, I am in Texas right now, so this is a mainly American podcast from now on because I'm moving out here for good.
That's fair.
I joke. But yeah, it's Crash. How you been? What's new out here in the world?
Out here? Why are you asking me? I'm in America with you, bro.
Good point. Yeah, Matt, what's it like back in England, bro? Is it all right?
Well, no, it's absolute carnage. Energy bills going up by 52% tomorrow, and everybody's panicking. All the petrol stations running out of petrol again. You're better off staying over there, to be honest with you, Fix.
Are you being for real?
I have heard stories of a few petrol stations running out of petrol, and I filled up my car the other day, and it cost me like 30 quid more than a normal deals, and I'm not happy about it.
30 quid more.
Let's just burn it all to the ground. It's done. We're done with the UK.
Sounds good. Crash, I have to admit, your country's weird. I'm putting it out there, listeners. I'm putting it out there. No, don't do what I know you're about to do.
What am I about to do?
You're in Texas. That doesn't count. It's not like
I know. Explain it to me.
So, yesterday, went to a Mavericks Dallas versus Lakers game.
Yeah.
So we're in downtown Dallas. I'm talking about even walking across your street is weird. Like, your buttons to walk across the street are not next to the street. They're like a bunch of very far behind. It's so weird.
Do you assume that everywhere has buttons to walk across the street?
Crash, that was the next point. Some of them don't even have buttons.
Yeah, that's normal, right? That's normal here, bro.
Yeah, but it's not normal to me. I'm struggling. I am struggling so much out here.
To back up Crash a little bit,
okay.
Him being in New York and you being in Texas is basically like the UK and Russia. Maybe not quite, but it's pretty fucking far away. It's it's like pretty fucking out there. So not that they should have different buttons on street signs.
I will say, every place there are buttons in New York, the buttons are where you cross the street. That's where they are. The buttons are right there. I don't know about Texas. I can't talk about Dallas. That's not my area of expertise. But
yeah, I've coped pretty well so far. I've ridden a horse. I've held a gun.
Didn't shoot it.
Oh, Christ. I was too scared. I was so scared. Well, I'm talking about, I'm out on a ranch, 70 acres of land, right?
Yeah.
And one of the family's one of the family's boyfriends, we're talking about guns, and he's like, oh yeah, I got a gun in my car. And then someone's like, yeah, go get it. And I'm like, please don't go get it. Please don't go get it. Gets it, takes out the chamber, takes out the bullet, gives me the gun. He's like, here you go. And I held it. And I was like, oh, this is heavy. Oh, God. I was I'm just like, nope, I don't like this at all. At all. It scares me.
You could just go to the local Walmart and get yourself one. Easy.
That's what freaked me out. Like 2 aisles over from the gun aisle was like the cornflakes and fucking cereal aisle. Yeah. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable with this.
So we were talking about the other guy, my internet just died. Welcome to being up in North Texas. That's what happens. I've walked around the whole ranch at this point. I literally ran outside next to the big antennae because I thought, oh, maybe I'll get in out of there. No. If I die, I'm gone, guys. This is it. I'm sorry. I tried. I am literally stood up next to a bathroom and outside the bedroom I'm staying in because this is the only place I can get stable internet. Anyway, yeah, so I held a gun for the first time. That was an experience that I'll never forget. Very heavy. Very, very heavy. I wasn't expecting it to be so heavy, but I was super scared. Super duper scared. But yeah, I just went horse riding, not yesterday, day before. And then yesterday, I should say, I went to see the Dallas Mavericks play the Lakers. LeBron didn't play because he got injured, just travel halfway across the world. And, the GOAT doesn't play. No big deal. No big deal. I'm not upset.
Not too many GOATs can be active in one place, Fix. Don't worry about it.
I did say to Haley, we saw Luka. Yeah. Was you calling me a GOAT then? Is that what he was doing?
Yeah, it was a really sweet moment that you didn't catch.
I picked up on it. It took me a second. Yeah. I'm standing up and not on my desk. All right, everything's going to be a bit hard this week. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a wild journey. I can't wait to come back and talk to you guys about it more in depthly. Probably on our Patreon exclusives episode, which you guys will be able to get at some point in time. We're still figuring things out. Again, I'm on holiday. Don't even worry about it. This is what I do for this goddamn podcast. Anyway, topic of the show. PlayStation have unveiled their Project Spartacus, which is PlayStation. What are they calling it? So I only saw this in a tweet because I'm on holiday, so I don't get much in there here. So I just saw a tweet and I saw what it is they were offering, and I just started laughing, to be honest with you. Ooh. So Kresh, what is it exactly called? PlayStation are doing?
Matt, what is it called, PlayStation?
That's a great question. So PlayStation are essentially, kind of like we all thought, rebranding PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus into the same thing, although there are 3 tiers to that. But it's PlayStation Plus. It's PlayStation Plus Essential, PlayStation Plus Extra, and PlayStation Plus Premium, maybe?
Question marks? Question marks?
I think you're right.
That sounds right. I think
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, run us through what the hell they're offering. And you might be wondering, why are we talking about this? Because, of course, this is meant to be their equivalent to Game Pass at the end of the day. And, yeah, this what are they offering people, Matt?
It's a great question.
Subscription service. And do you have the answers?
Not right this second, but I will very quickly.
Matt, I want to just make sure things are clear here. You are stood at your desk in your normal space.
Yeah.
And you don't have the answers. I'm stood in a broom closet and, trying to make this work. Please, man, I need more professionalism.
When you're speaking of professionalism, that was some great vamping there, Fix, because I do now have the information in front of me.
What I do, baby. It's what I do.
PlayStation Plus Essential. The benefits include, so it provides the same benefit that PlayStation Plus members are getting today, such as 2 monthly downloadable games, exclusive discounts, cloud storage for saved games, online multiplayer access. There are no charges for existing PlayStation Plus members in this tier. So if you've already got PlayStation Plus right now, you're automatically going to be put into PlayStation Plus Essentials, and you're going to keep having everything you've already got. The cost of that is, in the United Kingdom, is going to be $49.99 a year, which I believe is exactly the same as it is now, and United States, $59.99 a year. Again, I believe exactly as it is now. So the new things that they've introduced, PlayStation Plus Extra, so it provides all the benefits of the previous tier, obviously, and adds a catalog of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games, including blockbuster hits from both PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners. Games in the extra tier are downloadable for play. So you're going to have a library of 400 games, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games that you're going to be able to download and play. That is going to cost you $99.99 for a year in the US and $83.99 a year in the UK.
Okay. And wait, that's the top. That's not the top tier. That's the middle
tier.
Right?
That's the middle tier.
Okay, hit me with the top tier.
PlayStation Plus Premium. the amount of asterisks, little like, hey guys, read the small print things in this blog post is incredible. But yes, PlayStation Plus Premium. So it provides all the benefits of the previous 2 tiers, obviously, and adds an additional 340 games, including PlayStation 3 games that are available to play via cloud streaming only.
Yikes.
A catalogue of classic games available for both streaming and downloadable options from PlayStation, PlayStation 2, PSP generations.
Okay.
It offers cloud streaming access for original PlayStation games, which I just mentioned. Oh, it offers cloud streaming access for some PS4 games. Yeah, and that's
I've heard enough
about it.
Enough.
And you get time limited game trials.
Okay,
that is $120 a year, or £100 a year.
So okay, before I go off on my rant, because there's one coming. Chris, what do you think of this? What is it? How are you feeling about this new service that PlayStation have come out with?
I don't think the tier 2 is horrible for $5 more a month for people who are already invested in playing on a PlayStation. I think if you're looking at it and like, oh, should I go to PlayStation? $15 a month is kind of a lot to ask for. But you could also do that and get access to a whole bunch of games that you might not have played, which is whatever. But like the pricing is kind of my biggest issue with it. Is the pricing is just kind of weird, and I don't think it's great.
I'm really sorry, Chris. I just heard a donkey crying.
I'm like, why is Chris like laughing?
You started talking, and the donkeys just started making really weird noises. And I was like, "Fuck, I can't hold it in." Sorry. Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. It's happened. He's died a death. Well, hey, look, I'll tell you what I think of it, and if he comes back, he comes back, and if he doesn't, it looks like he's dead. Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, Fixer disconnected. The internet in Texas just can't keep up with him. But me and Crash are going to carry on with the show. We'd love it if you stick around. I think you probably will. You're the Potato Squad. You're used to this stuff by now. So, Crash, you were saying you don't like the pricing of this thing, right?
Yeah, that's where like my issue lies. Like, I think the pricing makes sense when you look at it. Like $10 for PlayStation Plus, and then additional $5 for the service. Like $5 for the service, I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody who doesn't have it, to look at it and be like $15, like that could be cool for somebody who doesn't have a PS5 and has missed out on a bunch of games. But somebody who's hit a lot of those games, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And even people in that ecosystem, like how many of those games have they missed out if they're not getting those day one games, right?
Yeah, exactly. That the fact that there's no game list with this like throws up a lot of questions, right? Like, and I don't remember if Xbox released a game list when they announced Game Pass. But we're so used to that library of games now in Xbox, and kind of they're just being everything you expected to be as far as, you know, Gears of War as far back as you can remember, and whatever else. And so, like, yeah, not knowing what's coming in here is an interesting move. Now, look, 400 games in that kind of middle tier, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. 400 is an impressive number.
Yeah.
And we know that God of War, Spider-Man, Death Stranding, like some of the ones that we would expect to be in there are in there.
A lot of their big hitters are on there, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. But we also know you're not getting God of War 2, you know, day one. You're not getting the next thing from Insomniac or whoever else. Like, that's not going to work that way.
I think the big question will be like, how long till those games added? Is it a month?
Sure.
Because a month wait isn't too bad.
That's not too bad.
2 months isn't horrible either, but once you get to 3, 4, 5, 6, that's at the point where you can start getting those games used or on sale for a comparable price to what you would be paying for that interim of months. So instead of like, I'm going to get 3 months of this service that I don't really need other than new games, I could just go and buy that game. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot, right? Like me and you have only like started, you know, more recently kind of reviewing games on the podcast. Something we run into a lot is like a game's coming to Game Pass. We don't reach out for codes. Like, we just know, oh, we'll get it day one, and maybe we could get it a couple days early, but like, we know we ain't got to worry about that. And people aren't getting that with this service, and that's a super niche me and you thing. Like, fine.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a huge hit. It's such a big deal that you get Halo day one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something Sony changes in the future. But then again, it's like it's not something Sony needs to do at this moment. And as long as that's the case, it's not going to happen. And unless that happens, I don't think that anybody can really argue that this is a competition to Game Pass as of right now. If I was Game Pass, I would not be worried about this. I saw a rumor, and I don't know if this is true, but somebody was talking about like, oh yeah, the PlayStation service is getting MLB 19, whereas Xbox has MLB 2022.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's like, okay, well, then you're not even like up to date with like old games that are out on one service. Well, no, MLB 2022 just came out. Let me not say old game.
Yeah,
but like,
exactly.
You're not even competing on that front, and it's just a weird optics.
100%. And like you say, 400 is an impressive number to put into that middle category of PS4 and PS5 games. But like we know that there's a lot of shit on these platforms. Like there's a lot of crap out there. Even look at like some of the stuff Xbox got late, like Death's Door and other stuff like that. Like, are you expecting stuff like that to be ready to go on this service?
So here's what the tricky part is. Oh, the way PlayStation does its exclusive deals, it includes stipulations for Game Pass and stuff like that, right? My question would be does Microsoft make those same sort of requirements in their deals with like, okay, we'll pay you for Death's Door on our platform, but it's going to be on our streaming platform and it won't be on any other sort of things. Or maybe that's something Microsoft will do going forward. And they haven't done yet because there hasn't really been any competition.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The only thing I can think that would be similar to that is Destiny 2 being on something like a Stadia. But then that's essentially a free-to-play game anyway at this point. Yeah. I don't know. That's a bit of an iffy one.
Well, the Destiny being on Stadia is like, that's like straight up streaming. I'm talking more so. I said streaming, and that's not necessarily what I meant. I meant more so sure. Like the Netflix type of platforms, so like Game Pass and Spartacus. Whereas I think you got it for free if you bought Stadia, but you still had to buy the game otherwise.
Oh yeah,
like,
no, you're right.
Still a purchase required. Yeah, it wasn't just given for free. So yeah, I don't know. Sarah Squid does have a question about this.
Hit me.
Sony has announced its brand new PlayStation Plus service that will launch in June. It has its 3 tiers with various benefits for set pricing. I'm sure you lot know the details, so I won't bore you. Now imagine you see Jim Davis, someone who hasn't paid attention to games, media, or games as a whole, walking down the street, and he's talking about wanting a subscription to a video game service where you can play. Knowing what you know about both services, what service do you think the best for your dollar? Does Microsoft offering first parties day in day outweigh Sony first party months after? Is paying extra to stream PS3 games a good value for the service, or would you recommend backwards compatible hardware enhanced games like on Xbox? This isn't for your personal preference, but what would you recommend to a newbie on the streets? No, you cannot ask Jim Davis why he's walking in the street talking about games instead of writing Garfield comics. Bonus, it's been a couple weeks. Does Matt still know the email?
Let's do one question at a time, Crash. So Jim Davis is on the street.
Good answer. Yeah,
he's on the street. It's an interesting question, and I think again it comes back to us not knowing actually what is in this service, in this system.
Yeah,
I do feel like that middle tier of games. My thinking with it is if I went for the premium and I got those backwards compatible PS1, PS2, PS3 games, I feel like I could hit everything I wanted to in probably 2 weeks. Like everything I actually want to go back and enjoy that nostalgia of, 2 weeks. Silent Hill, I hope Silent Hill's in there, but maybe it's not. We don't know. Like I can rattle them off, right? And it's not like an insane amount of games. There's a lot there, but also like we've seen a lot of remasters, and like there's a lot of stuff going on, right? And so I feel like that middle tier is actually where they're going to get a lot of their subscribers in. And so until we see what that full 400 looks like, because it could be 300 pieces of shit. It could be 350 pieces of shit. It could be bad. I don't necessarily think it's going to be. I hope everything you kind of expect to be there will be there. How many games are on PS Now right now? It's probably not far off 400, is it?
Yeah, I'd imagine a lot of the games that are on PS Now that can be put into a service like this are put into a service like this.
I would assume that the
and all those
entirety
games will
of
still
the
be
PS.
on the
Sorry.
and I think the highest tier still includes PS Now, like whatever would be in PS Now bundled into it. Correct?
Yeah, exactly that. And so I would assume the entirety of PS Now's collection comes across in that middle tier. To be honest with you, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll see.
Hopefully.
So right now, if you were going to recommend to a newbie which service to buy, there is no doubt in my mind you would recommend Xbox Game Pass just because you know what it is. Like you know, you've got Halo, you know you've got Gears, you know you've got all these things, and PlayStation is still a bit of an unknown. Like until it's out, it's really hard to.
Here's what I will say, and I do at the end of the day still think Game Pass is the right answer, but for somebody who hasn't played games and doesn't play games, and I assume Jim Davis doesn't, we're going to act like Jim Davis doesn't play games and hasn't touched a console in God knows how long, right? Busy writing his comics. Let's assume that that's the case. Then I could see a world where you do recommend the PlayStation service, but you have to understand what it is just because of the strength of those first party titles. And that's really it. But even then, if you're looking at the long term, it's like, that Xbox service is better because in the long term, there's more of a chance for it to catch up and it'll be day and date with all of Xbox's best games. Whereas with Sony, will always lag behind. So once you get past that first catalog of the collection of all the good games from the PS3 games that have been remastered to PS4 that you would assume would be on this service, which I've seen a lot of people complaining about the PS3 thing. It kind of makes sense because the PS3 is like a crazy console that works completely different from everything else.
I think this is a peek behind, and we already kind of all knew it, but this is a peek behind the curtain of how ballsed up they did the PS3. Like, they cannot figure out a way to emulate this better than people have already done on the internet. Like, there are emulators out there for the PS3 that work, mixed well, I don't know. But the fact that they're forcing you into cloud streaming for the PS3, I think speaks absolute volumes about how much of a fucking trash fire that hardware is. And that's an interesting thing, right? Because that PS3 catalog is, I think, widely renowned as a good back catalog. There's a lot of good games in that PS3 list that you might want to play. Now, yes, a lot of them have been remastered for PS4. A lot of the PS4 versions will be available in this. But they
think
still,
a lot of the PS4 versions will be available. It's just
sure, we don't know.
Let's
but
put that in there.
Come on,
you'd assume.
You got to be your Uncharted's and your Last of Us have got to be in there and stuff. And so but forcing people into that cloud streaming thing will just mean for some people, they haven't got good enough internet for it, and so they just don't get it.
Absolutely.
And so you're paying for something potentially that you just can't use yet. And so, I mean, you couldn't make it even more complicated and have a fourth tier that just includes that PS3 streaming, and cost a little bit extra, or have a pick and choose, your console emulator, which catalog do you want this month or whatever. You couldn't do it, but it is a bit of a shame that is like a big feature that some people just will not be able to use right now.
I agree. Do you want to move on to some other questions?
Did I have anything else to say on it? I don't think so. I think, look, I want to know from you okay, so there are two things actually. I do have more things to say, Crash. Firstly, I've chatted about my dad kind of getting back into gaming on this podcast and massively through Game Pass, right? He loves Game Pass.
Yeah.
Now, we always played PlayStation when I was a kid. We were a PlayStation family. And so I could imagine him being really enticed by this, right? Like, the fact that he would have to get a PS4 or get my PS4 out of the attic to use my PS4 to do it might not put him off all that much. Like, I think he would be willing to jump back in on PS1 and PS2 games. I think the nostalgia there would be enough for him.
Does this work with PS4? Do we know?
Well, that is a great question. I don't know.
I don't think it does.
No, I don't. Come on, it has to.
I don't think it does. I would assume it doesn't.
No, it has to.
I think for old school gamers, like, here's the thing. I will probably do the highest tier 1 month. You got something?
I do. PlayStation Plus Premium, it says customers can stream games using PS4 and PS5 consoles and PC with 5 asterisks after it. So does that mean then you can't download The PlayStation 2, and PlayStation Portable games?
To the PS1?
To the PS4?
I would assume so.
No.
I would assume so.
Surely not.
I think the safest way to do it with that is to assume that that's how it works, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Remember, like, the PS4 doesn't have backwards compatible, so you'd have to be making backwards compatible work on the PS5 with a lot of those old games, and then you'd have to make them run on the PS4 as well, which is a lot of work. I think that, like, the biggest light that this shines is how much we have to be thankful for how much Microsoft went into backwards compatibility and how successful they were with it, because it's clearly not a plug and play situation. Clearly not that.
That is mad to me. And I'm convinced we're missing something, because if that is true and you can't download these games onto PS4, that is a huge hit. Because we know how hard PS5s are to get a hold of. They're not going to get the numbers in. Because we know as well people can't stream stuff very well yet.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're streaming a 390p game or something from PS1, maybe you'd be all right. I don't know.
I don't know. We should ask Fix to try it.
Yeah, you can't get on a Discord call, but I'm sure he can stream.
I'm sure, like, Sony's goal isn't, like, day one massive success anyway with this service.
I agree.
That being the case doesn't really, like, surprise me. It would have been fantastic if it's available on PS4, but that's neither here nor there, I think.
And, well, another interesting caveat to that then is look, of anybody who's going to do streaming, we've always said Google and Microsoft are the big enough boys to pull it off with that internet infrastructure and that insane amount of money and all the cost it takes to do that. Does Sony have the capability for that? Like, if everybody on PS4 is going to buy this day one and start streaming games, is that service going to work the way it should?
Two things. One, as far as I'm aware, that PlayStation Now service is, like, significantly better now than when it first launched.
Yeah.
Like, it is, games are absolutely playable now. I don't know if playable is necessarily a good thing, right? Because I haven't seen it and I haven't used it, but so I don't want to, like, go out that far. And two, if I'm not mistaken, they do use Microsoft's Azure servers for this.
Okay.
So, because I'm pretty sure when they made the deal with Microsoft and everything, this was one of the, like, things that they were trying to set up for themselves. So I don't think it'll be horrible. But then again, like, you're going up against Microsoft, who has spent a lot of time and a lot of effort in making this work very clearly. That will it hold up? I don't know. I don't think it'll be as good as Microsoft, just because Microsoft's had a lot more time in working with cloud, and they probably have a lot more native tools outside of just what they offer in Azure to help their cloud performance excel.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, if the PS3s that you've got to assume have been torn apart and built into something to help stream the PS3 across the world, like, how easy is that going to be? Like, if they can't make backwards compatibility work, how easy is it to make streaming work on them? I don't know. Maybe it is easier than my brain conceives it to be. But it also wouldn't surprise me if it's not great.
Yeah.
I hope it's great. I hope they announce a game list and they get me in. Like I said, Silent Hill's probably the big one for me. If they got all the Silent Hill games in, I'd be interested. And then, like, weird stuff like Dino Crisis and like shit like that. Like, but I know I would only jump into those games for like an hour, and then I'd be like, and I'm done. A lot of the fond memories I have of old PlayStation games as well are like Disney licensed games, which is a whole other kettle of fish whether or not they can get across.
That's the hard thing with, like, the way they've done backwards compatibility with, like, Microsoft. It's sort of like, you own the game, you can play it, so we're not taking anything away from the developers. Whereas this case, it's like, you're streaming it, we're going to get money from the service, so now a deal has to be made with everybody who owns the rights to those games if we want it to be on our service.
Yeah, and that's a good point, right? If you still have your PS2, PS1 back catalog, this does not mean you can play those games. You can't put those discs in and just know you're going to be able to run those games. That's not how this works. You're only getting what's on this service. And so, yeah, it's another caveat to it.
Yeah.
Do we have some more questions about it?
No more questions about this, but we can move on to some other questions.
Look, what I would say then is obviously this is going to be another hot topic next week. Maybe it won't be topic of the show, I don't know, but we will obviously hear Fixer ranting about it, I'm sure. And so
if he really was excited to get into that rant.
He was so close. He was so close to getting in. And so if you have questions about it, obviously, you know the drill. YouTube comments, MC Fixer's Discord, Twitter, @myxboxandme. Hit us with all the questions you got about this service because we'll be chatting about it next week as well.
Yeah. So Topliff has a question, and it's with the news that CD Projekt Red are making a new Witcher game, which I'm ecstatic about. As loved the first 3, do you think people will be hyped for this given the terrible launch Cyberpunk had, or do you think CDPR burned their bridges with fans by releasing such a broken game? Interesting question.
Very interesting question. You go.
I think that I kind of think Witcher is sort of bigger than CD Projekt Red. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's hand in hand. I think it's hand in hand with CD Projekt Red, and there will be some negative backlash to it. But with the popularity of the Netflix show, the books are and have been huge. Like, Witcher isn't a big property because of the games. Witcher is a big property in addition to the games. Like,
especially
it was
now.
Already exactly. Don't get me wrong. I think the games have catapulted it quite a bit. But I do think Witcher is bigger than that. And I do think we talk a lot about the average gamer. I don't think the average gamer who might have played Cyberpunk is like, wow, this is a shit game, is going to associate that with Witcher. 100%. I don't think that'll go hand in hand. So no, I don't think... I'm sure for some people it'll burn bridges and some people will be hurt by what happened and how buggy and all the stuff that went on with CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk. But I think for the most part, I think it'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, we often talk about it and we often forget that we're in that top 1%, top 0.1% of gamers who are listening to podcasts and care about this stuff. And the truth is most people just don't. And so most people are watching Henry Cavill on Netflix and they enjoyed The Witcher 3, and so they're going to be excited for Witcher 4. Look, we know it's going to get review bombed probably at the gate. We know if it has any bugs in it at all, people are going to say it's the worst game of all time. And it will have bugs in it because these games are huge and it's just going to happen. Although, to be honest, I don't remember my experience with the Witcher games being buggy, to be fair.
It had the...
I'm sure there was
open world jank that like all open world games have.
Exactly.
The Witcher had. And so I'm sure it'll have it. I'm sure like every open world game, like Starfield will come out and it'll have that level of jank to it.
Definitely.
That's just, I think, because I see people when they talk about these games, sometimes they just sort of like attack games for these sort of bugs. And it's like, that happens. You're trying to make a playable character in a whole open world and not have it be buggy at all. Like, doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So 100%. I wouldn't be too surprised to see this have some bugs, but hopefully not the Cyberpunk level.
Well,
and hopefully if they're...
Go
ahead. I was going to say if they have...
Go on. You go.
If they have some sort of enemies that'll chase you at any point, just don't do the Cyberpunk method of just having them drop in randomly and spawn on you.
I was playing something the other day and that happened and it reminded me of Cyberpunk. Like I came into an area and everything just fell in. I think it was Elden Ring actually. I came into an area and all the enemies just fell in, and it was the first time it was definitely Elden Ring. First time I'd seen it, and the first time it happened to me. It's never happened to me since. But I was like, oh, it's Cyberpunk. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think, I think we've said everything we need to say on that. I think, like I say, the majority of people don't even know that The Witcher and Cyberpunk were made by the same people. They don't care. They're just into The Witcher because Henry Cavill is a sexy mofo, and they'll be excited for The Witcher 4. But what I was going to say, sorry, is that there will be people online who shit all over this game because they had a terrible experience with Cyberpunk, but you just need to remember it's the vocal minority, and they're just idiots, and that's what it is. I do think, though, that there will be, at CD Projekt Red, there will be eagle eyes on this, and they will have felt the pain of Cyberpunk, and they will not want to be in that situation again. Yeah.
I think the benefit of Witcher as well is that this is going to be their fourth Witcher title.
Sure.
So they have experience in making this genre and this type of game.
Yeah.
Whereas with Cyberpunk, it really was like, here's our first foray into it, and we're going to promise you the whole entire world and give you almost nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. There was so many new things in that game. Their first person game. It's their first game with driving and traffic. And like AI systems that just don't exist in The Witcher, because most of the people you run into with The Witcher are kind of just stood still. A lot of the NPCs in town and stuff are just stood still. They don't really there's no traffic or anything, right? And so there's a lot of aspects to Cyberpunk that were never in The Witcher. And there's a lot of aspects that people don't now expect to be in The Witcher. All people want from The Witcher 4 is more Witcher 3, I think. Like, is there anything that people are crying out for, improvement-wise, from Witcher 3? I don't really think so. No. And so you can kind of just iterate on that process. And obviously we want it to look prettier, and I'm sure we'll have ray tracing and all the other things, which is one thing that Cyberpunk did very well. When it was pretty, that game was fucking pretty. And so, yeah, I'm not too worried about The Witcher, to be honest with you.
Next question we have is from Ken Doyle. Have you ever found yourself in a gaming funk and just been unable to get into any games? If so, how did you get out of it, or what game got you out of it?
It's a great question. Do you have one on the tip of your mind?
Games to get me out of gaming funks? No, I've been in gaming funks. I never have a game to get me out of it.
It just happens with time, or?
Yeah, it just happens with time. It's like eventually something will come out, or I'll just feel the urge to play something that I've been avoiding for a while. Like I do play games with friends, but that's much more of a social experience than it is I'm out of my gaming funk and I'm enjoying just playing games, because I wouldn't play that game on my own. Because I don't feel like it.
Yeah, it's those games like Outriders and stuff that I always talk about. It's our version of going down the pub, because none of us live together. We're going to run through this corridor and shoot all these bad guys, and that's just going to be an avenue for us to have a chat, basically. And so I agree that that's like a separate thing. What I find a lot is that playing something that is wildly not my sort of game will often get me out of a game into funk. The first thing that comes to mind is like Unpacking, which is like the most like kind of weird, floaty, puzzle game of all time that really has very little point. And I was kind of in a funk when that came out, or not when that came out, because I played it much later, but I was kind of in a funk, saw it on Game Pass, and then couldn't put it down. Also, though, what I would say is gaming funks aren't necessarily a bad thing. Like, just as much as I would encourage you to play a game that's not normally in your wheelhouse, I would encourage you to go do things that are not normally in your wheelhouse. Because often, no, stay inside. Gross.
Stay inside. Don't touch grass.
That's fair. Fix is touching enough grass for all of us at the moment. Fix out on his ranch.
Fix is never gonna leave his house again. He's like, I touch so much grass, guys. Anything else to add to that?
I don't think so. Enjoy your funk. Enjoy your time off.
Enjoy your funk. There's no need to constantly be playing games. Matt's actually 100%. Right about that one. Sometimes it's good to step away, enjoy a movie, go out on a walk, go to the park, go to a pet store, see all the puppies, don't buy a puppy and walk away.
Wow.
Next up, another question from Ken Doyle. What is your favorite short game? I had great fun decompressing with Unpacking last year, similar to you, Matt. Very simple story puzzle game that fit my headspace at the time. I don't know if I could say any. I really liked not an Xbox game, but the only one I can really think of that was a short experience would have been Journey way back in the day when I played that. I really, really liked that. I don't think I could think of any. Like, I enjoyed Unpacking. I enjoyed that quite a bit, but I don't think I would put that as a super
Boyfriend Dungeon in there? Experience. I know you enjoyed Boyfriend Dungeon.
I enjoyed it, but I think it's similar to Unpacking, where like I really enjoy that experience and it's a fun experience, but I don't think it's so.
That's fair.
It's like, I don't know if I'd attach the word favorite to that. And I know it's his favorite short game, so maybe I'm observing this question wrong. But to me, it's like a short game that really stands out for me. I don't know if I have many.
Yeah, I think one me and Fixer bring up all the time is the South Park games, right? And even the second South Park game is, you struggle to call it a short game, maybe?
That's not a short game.
The second one. The first one's like a 12-hour game. I would call that a short game.
No.
Well, you're thinking like under sub 5-hour game?
Is Last of Us a short game? It's not a short game. That's not a short game. That's not a short game. I'm not.
No, because we're getting into a place where you could argue like Halo Infinite's a short game, or we're in dodgy territory. All right, fair enough. I will concede. Ken, let me tell you about a little game nobody's talked about and I've never mentioned before. It's called The Artful Escape. Play the shit out of The Artful Escape because it's fucking great and it's short and it's brilliant. The Forgotten City, another one, short, bloody brilliant, incredible. But yeah, I love a good short game, and I think Until Dawn is another one that just came to my mind, which is a PlayStation only game, so Fixer is on fire right now in Texas. But yeah, like I love short games and I love short experiences, especially when they do something new. Because I think it like, you know, I consider South Park Stick of Truth a short game. And that's like the first, maybe not the first, but the best comedy game I've ever played. Where it puts comedy first. Games don't often do that. And I want to see more games do that. And I understand that there's a lot of difficulties in that, and I'm sad that we haven't really seen that. But you know,
you have the most comedic game ever, Tiny Tina's Wonderland.
That is true, which I have not started or played, but I am looking forward to Lego Star Wars. So
yeah,
which I would argue is a comedy game.
Don't know about Lego games. I'll give that to you. All right. What is the next question we have? From Original Cookie Man, which video game soundtracks are your favorites? That's a good question. The Celeste soundtrack, fantastic. On PlayStation, not on Xbox, but I think I have to say this game because its soundtrack is so good. Persona 5. Persona 5 has a really, really good soundtrack.
That's fair. That's fair. I think probably in the minority, or maybe not. I don't know. But I very rarely pick up on soundtracks in anything. Like, I very rarely notice a soundtrack. Like, people will say, oh, that movie had a great score. I don't know what it is. It just goes so over my head, that kind of stuff.
I don't think you're in the minority. I think the minority is the people who pay attention to soundtracks.
Yeah, maybe not. The idea of like listening to a soundtrack in like Spotify or something is like insane to me. Like mind blowing. But like ones that stick out to me, like that I at least can recognize immediately, whether that means they're good or bad, I don't know. But like The Sims, like fucking iconic, like original couple of Sims soundtracks. Stardew Valley, I think, is up there, and Skyrim, obviously. Like, just the most bog standard stuff that like people always talk about. And if people didn't talk about it, I don't think I'd notice or care. Like
Halo, shout out to Halo.
Yeah, of course, these like iconic soundtracks. But if they were anything else, would I notice or care? I don't know. But you know what does have a great soundtrack that is original and really cool and really interesting and baked into the game is a little game that I've never mentioned before called the Artful Escape. It's fantastic. You should go play it.
You've never mentioned Artful Escape?
Never talked about it.
I can't. Whoa.
I know.
It must have been Fix that was going all over it.
I think so.
Wow. Okay. Dope. Did you like it? A good experience?
It's an incredible soundtrack.
Incredible soundtrack. Got you. Anything else to add on soundtracks?
No. I'm done with soundtracks. You know what? Actually.
Okay.
Fighting games always have good soundtracks.
Oh, absolutely. That is actually a really, really good
Smash,
fighting
Tekken,
games.
They've all got great soundtracks.
I feel I can't remember the last time I played a fighting game.
To be fair,
it had a bad soundtrack.
I agree with that. People are going to call me out because the Smash soundtrack is just soundtracks ripped from Nintendo games, and so that's
just a little bit of cheat.
All Nintendo games have great soundtracks.
It's not just all Nintendo games; it's like the best hits of those games as well. Yeah. So it's like here's the iconic Nintendo soundtracks.
Saying that Smash has a great soundtrack is like saying like Now 64 is a great album for the year or whatever. Do you guys have Now CDs in the US? Is that a thing?
No.
Oh, no. Now CDs are like the greatest hits of the year. So this year it'll be like Now 22, and it'll be like all the top 40 songs.
And so it's like it's guaranteed to be like good songs on it. Like,
or
at least popular songs.
At least popular songs, exactly. So that's what I meant.
Got it.
A little bit of
got
American British knowledge for you there.
Thank you. Next question we have is from Lil Smee, who asks, have any of you people tried the new Tiny Tina game? In my opinion, it's great. What do you think? You have not, Matt, correct?
I have not. Have you?
I've played a little bit.
Ooh.
Gameplay is probably, I don't know if it's saying much, but it's probably the funnest that it's been in a Borderlands game. I haven't played too much, so I don't really know.
Wow.
I don't care for everything else in it.
Oh, really?
Everything else in it, I don't. But let me also preface this. I'm not a Borderlands guy. So like for me, this is par of the course. This is what I expected.
Oh, really?
I would say like fix will be a much better metric for people who are normally Borderlands fans if this is a good Borderlands game or not. Because like odds were that I wasn't gonna be a huge fan of it.
So yeah, I haven't played it. Because of my job, I've watched many hours of it and edited videos about it and stuff, and so I kind of feel like I've got a gist of the vibe of the game, but certainly not the gameplay. And it's got me super intrigued. Like the D&D angle, Will Arnett, Andy Samberg, like I think are killing it in like the early sections of the game that I've seen. And yeah, like Borderlands have never massively appealed to me either. And I kind of played most of Borderlands 2 and stuff, which I know people consider one of the better ones. And yeah, I agree. The tone of it's never really meshed with me. But this one has me intrigued. The twist, the D&D twist, and those voice actors, I think, are enough to hopefully pull me in. Having said that, I don't know when I'm going to get to it. Maybe when it comes to Game Pass.
Maybe if it comes to Game Pass. If
all the Borderlands games are on Game Pass, right?
I couldn't tell you. I have no clue.
At least
Tiny Tina's the Tiny Tina the DLC for Borderlands 2 is, I think they gave it out for free. I don't know if it's still free, but they had given out for free for like you could buy it during a weekend or something like that. That's actually probably like the best Borderlands has been, and I don't think this will live up to that for me. But I only played a little bit. I think I'm going to be playing through it with Fix if that's still on the cards. I don't know if that's still a plan.
Sure. Yeah, so it's so you are just not vibing with the story and the kind of vibe.
I'm not vibing with anything. I don't like Borderlands humor. Is one of that. It's humor that's sort of like say a whole bunch of dumb stuff, throw it at the wall, and see what sticks. Sure. And 9 times out of 10 for me, nothing sticks. And so it's like it's constantly joke after joke after joke, but it's bad jokes, so it just gets more progressively annoying for me.
Think that's kind of why I struggled with it as well, where I felt like, oh, I'd be enjoying this more from like a story point when I was playing the other Borderlands games. I'd enjoy this more if I was playing it on my own, but the game is meant to be played with others, and obviously we're just chatting over all their bullshit dialogue anyway, and just running to the next thing to kill the next guy, or get to the next chest, or whatever. And so, yeah, I felt like that dichotomy never meshed well for me. And it sounds like Tiny Tina's pretty similar. So
yeah. I think that's all for that question. Did you know that apparently, this is from Origin Cookie Man, did you know that apparently Brawlhalla is the biggest fighting game at the moment, most active player base, largest earnings, and it's free to play? Will its success force previously traditional games, i.e. single purchase, resell, revise, editions, again and again and again, to change their models and go free to play? That is a good question. I do know that there was a conference, was it at GDC? I don't think it was at GDC. I think it was before GDC, where there were a couple of fighting game developers talking to each other, and it got put up as a VOD or whatever. And I do know that the topic of free to play came up. I wouldn't be surprised if fighting games become more of a free to play norm, because it just makes so much sense for that genre. But the difficulty in a fighting game just going free to play is the gamble you take on that game. Because games are expensive and fighting games are incredibly niche. You'd have to hope that people latch onto it. Because if you really want to look back at it, Killer Instinct, free to play game, technically, if you want to look at it. Like, they gave you a fighter for free every week. Other than that, you could either buy fighters or buy the whole seasons for $20, I think it was. So while it's definitely successful now, I don't know how successful it would be. Like, if I'm sure for like the next Street Fighter could succeed off of just being a free to play game, because Street Fighter has that recognition.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a newer studio, or let's say Arc System Works, who makes a whole bunch of different fighting games, if they're not doing something that isn't a Guilty Gear or maybe even another Dragon Ball Z Fighters, will they be successful on something that people don't recognize as well? I think that's the big question. I would hope that they do it, because I do think they're more likely to succeed, and that game will stick around for longer, as opposed to having new iterations and sort of restarting that player base. But really,
it's difficult, right? Because I think when you've seen huge free to play successes, typically and I'm sure there are a million examples where I'm wrong on this. Typically, they really shake up the genre, right? You think about like battle royales, majority going free to play, but really shaking up what shooters are and do. And so we haven't seen a massive shakeup in the fighting game world. Like, there are two sets of fighting games. There are Smash Brothers and kind of everything else. And Brawlhalla is apparently really popular, and so, like, great, I guess. But it's either like you've got a health bar that you're trying to chip down, or it's Smash Brothers, right?
Yeah, I believe Brawlhalla works very similar to Smash.
To Smash, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Which, as a general consensus, sure, if you're looking at it on a basic level, sure. They do work like that generally. It's either health bar or percentage or knockoff stage and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so like what I was thinking about then is like, right, if you're going to make a free to play game, it has to be really profitable somehow. And so how are you going to make money on it? Killer Instinct kind of just didn't work, did it? Let's face it, like it didn't get the player base in it needed to keep going. I knew you weren't going to let me get away with it. So.
Killer Instinct didn't, but I do just want to reiterate with Killer Instinct, they came out at the worst possible time.
100%.
When the Xbox One first launched.
Yeah.
You are correct about your statement, though. I'm not going to take that away because that is a correct statement as much as it hurts me.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. But what I was thinking is, like, what can you do? Is there some sort of way where you can incorporate some kind of, like, FIFA Ultimate Team version of a fighting game where you're, like, getting character cards that have unique abilities or different buffs and debuffs, and then that character can get wiped out, and now you don't have him in your roster, and you have this like online ladder system. Did I just invent the greatest game of all time? Maybe.
No, you invented a horrible fighting game. Let me just tell you, like, that doesn't sound like... The problem with fighting games is ultimately that, like, once you get into it, after about a week or two, a lot of the bad players hop off, so it's only good players. So if you're like a mid-tier player or a bad player, it's like you're up against a wall, and it's really hard to go into. And so the question is really, how do you keep the more casual player? And something like Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm in general do that pretty well with their towers and their campaign and stuff like that. They have a way to keep in those players who aren't as good engaged in their game, that whenever they do drop something, they may be like, oh, I really like that game. I'm gonna hop in and play that, and I'll have the tower, and then I can do some online matches or whatever, and I'll be fine. I'll get my money's worth for that. But for most fighting games, that aspect is probably the hardest aspect. How do you keep the not as good player involved and invested in the game?
Sure. And what I will say about what I just said, like, I am aware fighting games are largely built on their balance. You going into a match with somebody and it feeling fair. And so what I've suggested is actually a terrible way to ensure that. I think what you see a lot of fighting games do is banking on an IP or banking on a license, right? And so the way you keep those casual players is by going, hey, you've got a new Batman skin you should come check out, or Wonder Woman, or we've added this character, or this thing you recognize is in the game. Like, and that's the way a lot of them try to work, right? Mortal Kombat is almost that in and of itself now. It started as a fighting game, but it's become
Street Fighter, Tekken. Like,
exactly. Those characters are iconic enough now. But even those, you see introducing stuff, right? You can play as Terminator in Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, right? Like, and so even those fighting games bank on those kinds of things as well. And so I don't know. I would love to see some fighting game come out that really shakes up the way fighting games work in a really fundamental way, in the same way Battle Royales did for shooters and Ultimate Team did for sports games.
Can't do that in fighting games. Because fighting games technically have that happen all the time.
Like what? Give me an example.
Just new mechanics and how the fighting games work. How do you break combos? What type of meters are there? Okay. How do those meters build? How do those meters work? Like, I get what you're saying. It's just fighting games do that on the regular, and if you change it anymore, like, you are making a different game. Like, my argument for what you're saying is, like, you would look at a third person. What was the game that came out on Xbox? It was on Game Pass. It was really early on. It was
Killer
made by
Instinct.
the studio that made... No, it's made by the studio that made Hellblade. It's a third-person game.
Third-person action game.
Third-person action game. I can't remember the name of it. It's made by the people that make Hellblade. Why can't... Not... Is it Hellblade? Hellblade.
Senua's Sacrifice? Yeah. Is that what you're talking about?
Senua's Sacrifice, yeah. It's made by the studio that made that.
Heavenly
Sword? They made an arena shooter. No, they made an arena shooter, and I can't remember what it is, and it's bothering me so much. But that would be the evolution of fighting games. They did. It wasn't good.
They made an arena shooter fighting game.
It was an arena. It was more of an arena fighter than an arena shooter. Yeah, that would be the evolution of fighting games, and those I don't think just work out in general.
Okay. I think, look, what Battle Royales did, love them or hate them, is like they made the size of the map, the amount of players, they make every time you're dropping in feel like a new experience, right? And I think people were getting fatigued with Call of Duty, where it's the same 6v6 on the same small map. You know somebody's going to peek that corner. You know you can hold, like, it becomes too repetitive, too easy. I would imagine if you're really into your fighting games, unless you're playing with really competitive people who really push you, you get to a point where every match feels the same.
Not in every game, though.
Sure, not
like,
in every
games
game.
are drastically different. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, sure, maybe every match feels the same, but not really, because two people can be playing the same character and play them drastically different. And so your approach to how that character plays is different. I understand what you're saying. I just don't know if I'd necessarily apply the same comparison to fighting games.
That's fair. I just want to see something fresh, something new. That Street Fighter 6 logo is fresh and new. People love that.
People did not love that. People hated that. Oh, all right. Let's move on here.
All right, let's move on.
Let's see. Last question we have is again from Topliff. Are any of you gonna play Lego Star Wars?
Hell
No.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
Are you really not interested? You're not a big Star Wars guy, not big into Lego games?
Don't care for Lego games.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was an IP I liked, like I enjoy Batman, I enjoy Spider-Man, I enjoy Marvel, all those stuff. Didn't care for those games. Don't care.
I understand. I kind of get it. For me, they're just really good fun. Like, they're great co-op games, right? There's something me and Emma can sit down and totally play together.
Yeah.
And she's never really big into the IP, but she laughs enough at the Lego-y jokes in there that it's fine, right? And I think the way they're shaking this one up, right, with all the preview footage that's been coming out, with like over-the-shoulder third-person cover shooter mechanics and like more in-depth boss battles and stuff like that, like adding a layer of gameplay depth that wasn't previously there is really exciting for me. And yeah, I'm a sucker for Star Wars stuff as well. So no matter how many times I'm burned, I will always buy Star Wars things. And so I will be playing Lego Star Wars, and when I'm allowed to talk about it, I will talk about it probably on here.
Yeah, I think Fix is going to be playing it as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think we should and we've kind of talked about it, we should stream it one night. Maybe me and Fix can just run around as Jar Jar Binks if he wants, and I'll play every other
the whole time
under the sun.
You need a different character. You're just gonna be switching while Fix is just Jar Jar Binks the whole time.
What I actually want to do is me and Fix both Jar Jar Binks against Darth Maul. I want us to beat the shit out of Darth Maul as Jar Jar Binks. Can you do it in the game? We don't know yet, but it looks like you do a lot of crazy shit in that game, and I'm excited for it.
Okay.
You know what looks good? Brick Tales. Did you see the trailer for Brick Tales?
No, I have no clue what that is.
Brick Tales was a new Lego game announced at the Future Game Show, plug, which is a thing that I kind of helped work on and is made by the company that I work for. And yeah, a new Lego game was announced there. It's called Brick Tales. It's a kind of isometric puzzle game where you are shown a Lego world with a problem that needs solving, and then you get a load of Lego bricks and you can build a solution to that problem. The thing they show off in the trailer is somebody building a little helicopter, and they build it wrong like several times and it flies all crazy. It looks like a really cool, unique new Lego game that has a cool idea, I think, behind it. And it looks quite pretty in its own Lego-y way.
I feel like people who enjoy building Legos will enjoy that game, I think.
I hope so. I think so. And I think it is the sort of game that looks like a nightmare to play with a controller, but that's maybe a separate thing.
Yeah. True. That's it for questions. We got nothing else, I don't think.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't pull up any news this week because we were like, me, Fixer, and Crash are going to talk forever about this PlayStation thing, and then Fixer died. We almost did an episode on our own, Crash. This was almost it. This is what it could have been.
I'm counting this as an episode on our own.
Really?
Fix was here. When was
Are
Fix
you
here?
taking the crown off Fix? Fix is now Mr. Week in your eyes?
Yeah, Mr. Weak in my eyes.
Well,
don't tell Fix I said any of this, but absolutely.
He's no potato squad. He's not listening to the end of this nonsense. And I now have to go and edit together a cobbled mess of internet interruption. So if you made it through the first 50 minutes of this podcast, Potato Squad, you know we love you. Leave your comments down below about the PlayStation Plus premium subscription. We want to know what you think. Are you going to get it as well as your Xbox Game Pass? Are you going to drop Xbox Game Pass for a month maybe and pick this up instead? Be interesting to find out what people think about it. Can't wait to see that games list. I'm sure we'll be chatting about it again next week because I know Fix will have a lot to say about it. So if you enjoyed this week's episode, please do subscribe on all of the things. Leave all of the reviews on all of the different platforms. And your best bet is to come to the YouTube channel because there's all sorts of stuff going on the YouTube channel. Every Monday night, I am streaming Elden Ring. Well, unless we play Fortnite or something else happens and we stream something else. But we went back into Fortnite, which was a blast.
I don't know if you saw Fortnite build mode, no build mode staying.
I've seen rumors that it's staying. Is that confirmed?
I'm pretty sure they had tweeted out that it's staying. I could be wrong about that and misinterpreting the tweet. I think they tweeted it out.
Well, me and you both bought the Battle Pass after we started streaming it, and so they've fucking got us. They fucking got us. I've had a blast, Crash. You got anything to plug before you go?
Leave a review on either one, 5, 4 stars. Don't tell Fix I said 4 stars. Oh, slap me aside.
Don't tell me you said 4 stars. 5 stars only.
5 stars only. Only 5 stars, guys. Who would say 4 stars? That's it.
Unbelievable. We will see you on the next episode of My Xbox and Me. 350? Maybe? Probably not.
It might be 349.5.
I think it might be 349.5, and there may even be a 349.9, knowing us. Love you guys.